Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brave Fence Musashi commentary. We're done with Twin Peak Mountain for now, and we got a piece of the legendary armor in the chests at the end of that pathway. However, we don't exactly know it's a legendary bracelet until we get it appraised, and that's where the pawn shop comes into play. So this dude's an asshole, but whatever. He's the only person that's qualified for the job. And throughout the game, you will find seemingly pieces of trash in treasure chests because Musashi doesn't know what it is. You know, what might be a dagger to him is actually a penknife. What might be a helmet to him is actually a bedpan. And I'm not making that up.
That's
Wait, so this guy will lie to you about what it
No,
is?
it's more like
Musashi's
he will
an
tell
idiot.
Musashi what he. Yeah,
Musashi
Musashi doesn't know what
mistakes
this
it for
stuff
something,
is.
and the item appraiser will tell him exactly what it is. It's a comedic take on an old school RPG element, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, so the treasure chest that we got at the end of the raft mini game is a bracelet, or Musashi just a bracelet. So we take it to the appraisal, and it's actually the first piece of our legendary armor, the L brace, which allows us to climb certain walls now. Yeah, this game will open up the more upgrades you get. So, you know, eventually you'll be able to climb walls, you'll be able to double jump, you will be able to... my favorite is probably the L goggles, because they allow Musashi to appraise items without the need for the dude, and he gets pretty bummed out about that. The thing about that, though, is that the dude not only just appraises items, you can also sell the items that you found to him, just to clear up inventory space and, you know, earn some extra cash. So that you're not just clogging up your inventory for the better, because your inventory is actually kind of small in this
You
game.
were trying to climb that wall, but there was this one part that was a little too diagonal for it.
Yeah, just more. It's a little jank again, but still. Yeah, so the L brace allows you to climb essentially certain walls in the overworld. It's pretty much every orange wall that you see, and you alternate fusion and lumina. You hit square and triangle alternatively to climb up the wall. It's a little awkward, but it does function.
Oh, it's that kind of mini
Yeah.
game.
Basically.
Well, they probably wanted to make you feel like you were climbing, and so they wanted it to like.
Yeah,
be...
game developers should stop trying to do that. Wait, what?
Okay, so immediately after getting our first piece of legendary armor, Steamwood, the place that is responsible for generating all the power in Grillin Village and All You Can Eat Kingdom, is kind of going haywire. And we have 24 in-game hours to reset it back to normal, otherwise everything blows up.
This timer pisses me off because it's like, okay, 24 in-game hours. Maybe that means 24 minutes? No, it's like every second is a half second or something.
Basically. And if you want to, and I should stress, it should be pretty obvious, don't fall asleep while that timer is up, because it will accelerate tremendously. In fact, if you fall asleep while that timer is on right here, it will like speed up by like times 4. It goes down really quickly. I think I show that off later, just for shits and giggles, but don't fall asleep. Once you're in this mini game, just stick with it. And make sure you rest up beforehand.
It's like, it would really suck if someone decided, hey, I can do one more thing before I have Musashi sleep, and then had to go through this whole thing with Musashi wigged out, moving at half speed.
Basically, yeah, especially for this game, God forbid. Because I actually don't like this game at all. I do not like the Steamwood Rescue because it is just... It's everything that I hate about this game's platforming all in one.
I
And
can already
I
sort of
I
see
don't
what
like
you
it.
mean just by looking at the area surrounding us.
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
So basically, we have to relieve Steamwood of its pressure, and we have to do this by turning valves. Normally, there's a dude that handles all this for us, but he's a bitch. And he starts complaining about back problems that aren't really there, so he tells Musashi, you have to do it.
Of course.
That sounds a little personal, John. Like
What?
you're venting a personal frustration
Ha, vent.
from. Oh, yeah, no, that is a good one. Thanks, John.
So, in order to restore Steamwood back to normal, you have to turn all the valves in numerical order 1 through 8. If you do it out of order, the entire thing resets and you have to go back to 1. If your valve timer on the top left goes to 0, the thing resets and you have to go back to 1. You do this 8 times total, and the higher you go, the faster the pressure valve raises, and it becomes more of a game of precise timing. But it's not just a matter of turning the valves, you also have to get to the other valves in time, and that's where you have to get a little crafty with your platforming, because in the cases like that where you have steam in between those pipes blocking the most direct passage, you have to jump on those red platforms on the sides. With a borderline isometric view, you can't exactly tell where you're landing with the camera this close up, and I have been known to fall through shit in this game. Because you can't angle your jumps correctly. I don't like this game. I don't like this game at all. It's weird. It's bad.
So why are we doing it?
We have to. It's part of the plot.
There you go. Now they're not in the convenient order.
No, they're not. Now, the good thing is, though, is that once you turn the correct valve, the steam surrounding it will shut off. So it's easier to, bypass than it was getting to it in the first place.
That's something, I guess.
But still, you have to haul ass. And the valve timer is not always at 60 seconds. Sometimes it's at 35 because they know it's pretty close by. So you got to haul ass. And needless to say, if you fall down, you're not reaching the valve timer on time. So get your ass back to number 1. Make it a little easier for yourself because you screwed up. Also, don't jump on the elevator. Because I've had times where I've clipped through that platform while jumping on the platform itself. And the thing is on a timer in itself. Like, you can't just get to the elevator sequence and just wait for the elevator to automatically show up. No, it goes where it wants, when it wants, so you just have to wait for it. But thankfully, we're just about done. This is the first instance of this. We gotta do this game twice. The second time is because of, again, plot. And the second time is more difficult because of the circumstances, and we'll get to that later. And show that off. But this is what I mean. It's like we have to go up, but the elevator has to go all the way down first before it decides to go all the way up.
So it's like it's like at a convention.
It's exactly like that. But this is what I'm talking about. On that elevator, you just sit your ass still. Don't even think about pressing the jump button because it is very possible for you to fall right through the fucking thing. It's like stellar coding. This is
Platforming's hard. This is why Square usually doesn't bother.
I mean, the Kingdom Hearts. No,
it turns out so great.
And it was so great they got rid of it in 2. You're right.
I was going to say Kingdom Hearts wasn't good there either.
Well, because there was none there at all.
I would have been fine if Kingdom Hearts 2 had no platforming, if it only had some exploration to make up for.
Where is everything?
Like, I know they improved that in Final Mix. I know some people have only played Final Mix at this point, so they don't know what I'm talking about, but in the vanilla version.
Yeah, man, absurdly long prologue.
In the vanilla version, some of those areas were just depressingly lacking in substance.
We did it. We saved the world.
Save Steamwood at the very least.
We saved most of the world.
Because this dickhead didn't want to do his job. Like, I'm pretty sure that's like he's breaking child labor laws or some other shit for that.
What are these gonna do?
This is medieval times, so no.
What are these guys gonna do when Musashi leaves? Are they just gonna
That's
explode?
a good question.
Well,
it's a miracle this thing didn't explode before we got here.
That's not Musashi's problem, then.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I saved you from the bad guys. You're on your own for the rest of this crap.
That's the thing. Look,
right?
It's never really elaborated on if Musashi is a child. It's just one thing that everybody points out. Musashi doesn't exactly argue against it, though, which kind of makes it ambiguous. Like, is he a child or is he just really small?
Well, he's probably not old. Like, he definitely talks like a kid in many cases as well.
I would imagine he's probably like 13-ish.
Yeah, like mid-teens. Like, at the very least.
Him and, like, pretty much every other anime protagonist out there.
Yes.
Well, it's better than most shonen manga where totally normal 14-year-old boy starting high school and he's just, like, ripped to hell.
Yeah. That was, like, one of the most rude awakenings I had with, now that I'm actually starting to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
He said it.
And I get
he
to,
said the word. God.
I get to part. Is that the new Kirby?
No, it's just the moment you
I
say
mentioned
the
JoJo.
word JoJo.
Okay.
And people don't shut up.
Okay. Well, I'm in part 3 now.
I guess we have to insert a roundabout ending screen then.
Probably, likely, But now that I'm in part 3 now, I am utterly baffled that Jotaro is supposed to be 17.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Dude looks like he's 30.
It's that art style, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see an anime or a manga like that.
Well,
go
actually,
for-
one of my favorite things that come out of that now is splicing JoJo with that clip from Invader Zim. It's like, I'm Dio Brando, and I'm 12 years old.
It's definitely interesting to see an anime or a manga go for something more Western inspired in terms of visuals, but it does produce some awkward effects in places.
You mean all the posing?
That too, yeah. But I was just talking in terms of visual design. In any case, I'm no JoJo expert, so.
I don't think anybody is.
It's okay. You'll have the entire plot explained to you.
In the comment section, yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of anime that have been about adults, and like with an adult as the protagonist, and
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. Trigun. Those kind of anime.
Well, those are more seinen.
Yeah.
Shonen.
Right.
If we're
I
talking,
suppose
if
the
we're
second
talking,
half of Gurren Lagann
yeah.
is about them when they're actually adults.
Well, I don't count stories where they've aged up from being teenagers.
If we're not counting things like seinen, where it's marketed towards like grown adults in the first place, Rurouni Kenshin.
Rurouni Kenshin, yeah. Log Horizon.
Kenshin's like 30 in that show.
Log Horizon is one. Shiro is a college student who's working on like computer-assisted drafting, and Naotsuku, who you think is a teenager, who acts like a teenager, is a grown-ass adult with a job, and his whole thing is that he's just getting back into the game because things finally calmed down at work.
Are they adults in Death Note?
Sort of.
They start out.
Light is high school when the series starts. L is a grown adult.
Light is high school when the series starts, but he moves on to college pretty early on. And he's a grown adult.
He's
by
like
then,
late 17 at most when the series starts, so he might as well be.
I get that, that's earlier than the average, where most RPG and anime protagonists are like 5. And as soon as you turn 20, you qualify for the wizened veteran mentor figure,
It's like, apart from that, like, I know that, like, a lot of games aimed at a shonen audience don't necessarily have teenage protagonists in them. Final Fantasy VII, like, everyone's freaking 20 or older except for Yuffie. But what the hell?
I mean, 6 also is mostly adults.
Yeah, the only child is Realm.
Yeah, it's like
And Gau's typically.
Final Fantasy didn't have an obsession with teenage protagonists until 8.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, and then after that, they had to have a shonen protagonist for some reason in every game. So you had Squall, you had Tidus, you had
Was
Vaughn.
he teenager though? I took Tidus like in his early 20s.
I mean, he acts like a 12-year-old.
He's that kind of character who's meant to be ambiguously teenage-like, even though his age is never mentioned. But
9's all over the place in ages.
9 was kind of like it was going for that old school feeling, so it kind of ignored the trends. But
well, no, the character RPG heroes being teenagers goes back pretty far. Like a lot of them even going back to like the NES or
yeah,
16
but like
Isn't Erdrick like standard teen protagonist?
You turn 16, your mom kicks you out of the house, the king gives you 50 gold and a stick and says, "Go save the world."
yeah, but it was
Pokemon was bad.
It was
What the fuck?
It wasn't something that happened in a lot of older ones because it was just easier to write a character who wanders around having adventures when they were an adult. They might be a young adult, but they're an adult.
So I actually like that little minigame we play with Rutrick there as we're on our way to get our first elemental scroll. There's actually 2 endings to that. So you're climbing the wall with Rutrick. You're racing against Rutrick to get to the top of this mountain. But the 2 pistons that protrude out that we've seen earlier climbing the mountain, I think they're random or based on a timer. And if you're unlucky or lucky, in the case against Rutrick, the pistons can shoot out and Rutrick can fall down, and you can beat him to the punch. If you beat Rutrick to the punch, you drop a boulder on him before you even get the chance to climb back up. If he manages to get up before you do, it's not over. You just get the ending where Musashi says, "Hey, Richard, I think you left your cape down there," and then he stabs him in the ass and he falls down. So either way, it's impossible to lose. So yeah, this is our first elemental scroll.
Oh
again.
god, the sword talks.
The sword talks for this cutscene only. This is
What?
immediately dropped. I have no idea if there was a purpose for this at all.
Yeah, because he's not talking. It's telepathic
communication. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we got our first scroll. The sword tells us that now that we got the scroll, we need to liberate the scroll itself by destroying the corresponding crest guardian, and that's pretty much the name of the game.
The sword has an.
I like.
The sword.
I love that dialogue. What's a crest guardian? It guards the crest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The sword has an eye.
Yes. This is the only time in the game it talks to us to tell us to destroy the crest
Oh,
guardian.
he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure? That's kind of a big deal, buddy.
They kind of
And-
pulled this out of their ass because they didn't know how to tell Musashi to destroy the
I
crest
guess.
guardian.
See, I would think they would just like, you got a perfectly good scribe, Shanky. Listen, yeah, his last name is Shanky. Deal with it. Stop laughing. I would think you would just like use the library to get more of an idea of how to like.
Oh, there's the one.
Yeah, I know. There's the one log playthrough.
What was that about Shane, John?
Yeah,
Huh?
I mentioned it for a good reason.
I mean, it looks no different than Mercenary Tau.
I wish that was a way of traveling. You just kick a tree and just ride it.
I forgot
Yeah.
Mercenary Town did
So
that.
I'm doing this sequence a little earlier than intended because there is a treasure chest up here that you can only get by either playing the raft game for a third time or waiting until you get the water scroll. But you need the earth scroll in order to... so the earth scroll allows us to summon earthquakes, basically. We slam Lumina into the ground really hard, and we cause tremors. And the tremors make these boulders fall down. And sometimes, I think it's based on the camera. I think I have the camera zoomed in really close to Musashi right here. So if it's not on screen, the game doesn't consider it there. Because normally a good tremor up close is enough to knock down all three boulders. But this instance gave me a little shit. Because normally, yeah, I usually knock both of these boulders down. But because it wasn't on screen, it didn't count. I just want to knock a boulder down. Thank you.
There you go.
So I have a question. Does, aside from, like tiredness and stuff like that, does the amount of days it takes you to complete the game matter?
No.
No?
Not at all.
So you can spend
Oh.
7 years walking
So-
around and doing jack
Yes.
all and
Yeah.
everybody
The
else
princess
is
will
like-
be fine. Never age a day.
That's
the
interesting
kingdom will be
with
safe.
all the attention
Day
to detail.
9,999.
I would have expected them to at least have a bad ending if you took too long, like Castlevania 64 does.
I mean, I wonder what happens if the clock overflows.
I don't know.
Someone should try it.
Spend 375 years
Oh,
in order to go
Musashi.
back in time and ready for answer movie.
Ever since you started on day one of this adventure and your adventures ended on checks notes, day one, the kingdom has seen so much change. It's all thanks to you, Musashi.